Did they make
No,
contact?
no. It's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Look at this.
Moves him to win it. Carl Edwards bump and dump and run.
Here comes Gordon right up to the bumper again.
You hear that wheel spin, Ben?
Yeah, I did hear that wheel spin.
The bump and run.
There it is.
Gordon underneath to the lead. 2 laps to go. But the bump and run is going to get Jeff Gordon the checkered flag at the end of the winless streak. Gordon wins the Sharpie 500 at Bristol.
And Maine really turned around, made a Riley's cage up.
Yeah, welcome to the Bump and Run, a podcast. I'm your host, Michael D.Y., joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Reilly and Eric at Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you had a Kyle Busch type of weekend. He was the big winner at the Buschy McBusch Race 400 at Kansas Speedway. If you're enjoying the podcast, like, share, subscribe. Podcast available on all podcast platforms every Monday night: Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And every Tuesday morning, we're available on YouTube. Shout out to all the friends of the show. Shout out to all the moms this week. This Sunday coming up is Mother's Day. Got to give a big shout out. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Bump and Run Pod. That's Bump the letter N Run Pod and bumpandrunpod.com. Matt the Statman Reilly, Daytona Ron, how you guys feeling after this week down in Kansas?
Mixed emotions. Loved the race, but there was some events that took place in there that let's just say I didn't sleep well last night. My temperature was boiling.
I don't blame you. We'll get into that. We'll break down the Buschy McBusch Race 400 in a little bit. But first, you guys want to jump into last week's news. Of course, we're going to run through this real quick. Last week was Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s 70th birthday. He would have been 70. So got to give a big shout out to the Intimidator. I wonder what he'd be doing right now if DEI would still be open and if Junior would still be driving.
Just be canceled on the internet, dude. He would already be.
I don't think he would. I don't think he would.
I don't think he would have been on the internet. Who knows, though?
But I mean, we'll never know. I wish we could. But yeah, big shout out to Dale Earnhardt Sr. Big 70th birthday up in the sky. Of course, this week, Texas Motor Speedway announced the format for the All-Star race. We'll talk about that further along as it comes. When's the All-Star race? It's June, right? June 10th or something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that.
We got time.
A lot of people.
We're gonna need 5 or 6 weeks to understand the format.
If you've been paying attention, they announced the format. It's a little confusing. There's some reverse orders and segments and stuff. We'll figure it all out as we get closer to the All-Star weekend. Another thing coming up this June, something that usually happens around All-Star weekend, is the Motor Racing Outreach announced June 10th there will be an iRacing Better Half Dash. Now, normally it's in Legends cars. They're doing the Legends cars in iRacing. A lot of the famous former and current Cup drivers' wives are going to be joining. Kelly Earnhardt Miller. I know she's not a really NASCAR wife. She's kind of like the queen of NASCAR when it comes to team ownership, but she's going to be jumping in there. I know Austin Wayne Self's wife, Jennifer, is the current defending champion. She's going to be jumping in. Should be interesting to see. And I bet you the wives are a little bit more competitive than the husbands. And I can't wait to see it. Should be interesting. That all goes down June 10th on Race Hub. What else was in the news? Atlanta Motor Speedway announcing it's going to open for full capacity in July. I'm wondering, do you think they'll sell out because people are, fiending to get back to the track after a year plus of dealing with COVID? Or do you think maybe people are going to be unsure about going? I don't know if I would go personally, just because the racing wasn't the best last month down in Atlanta. I don't know. It was a bit of a snooze fest for me. How do you think the turnout in Atlanta is going to be?
I hope that they turn out. I think if we were a little closer, I'd like to believe that we'd make our way out there. I mean, we're going to Pocono, so we're doing our part. But yeah, I think people will turn out. Everyone's getting stir crazy, looking for any excuse in the world to get to concerts, sporting events. So I'm optimistic about how that turnout's going to look.
I would tell you, if it was Daytona or Talladega, I guarantee it'd be sellout. Atlanta, I just don't know. I guess we'll see in July.
I think they will. I think most races that they allowed fans up to this point, as many, like whatever capacity they were allowed, they've gotten to capacity. So what's to say that if it's 100, that they're not going to go to 100?
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people, politics aside, NASCAR fans are going to show up to a NASCAR race.
Oh, absolutely.
The demographic wise, I think they're going to show out for sure.
I just wonder, because that race was so bad.
Also going to be better there. The heat, it's going to be hotter, going to be a little bit more slick.
That's
I think the
true.
race is going to be better.
I agree, Eric. I agree on that one for sure.
Yeah.
You want to know what? Now that you say that, because they did do Atlanta in the summertime last year, and the racing was pretty good. It was like a 95-degree day, and the track temperature was in the hundreds. Gets nice and slick. Those tires start wearing off. Hopefully, we won't see the leader out, 30 seconds ahead of the guy in 10th place.
Bad.
More news. Next gen car going to be unveiled. Next gen car is going to be unveiled this Wednesday on a NASCAR live stream, 3 p.m. on NASCAR.com. But we already saw kind of a sneak preview. Someone leaked an image last week of the next gen Camaro and the next gen Mustang. I sent the picture to you guys earlier. What'd you guys think about that? I think the Camaro looks pretty much the same, but the Mustang kind of looks cool. It kind of looks a little aggressive.
I think the same person who took the Sasquatch photo back in like the 70s is the same person who took this photo. Because like you can't really, the picture's blurry a little bit. It was some worker who definitely shouldn't have been taking that picture.
Oh yeah.
But
it looked like it was taken with a potato or like an old flip phone. I wonder if it was like an older worker who still has like a flip phone and like, I gotta take a picture of this, because it was kind of that weird square picture that we used to have back in the day.
I noticed that too. It's like, that guy definitely doesn't have a newer phone. There's no way he would leak a picture.
Yeah. But from what that picture showed, they look nice, man. They look, like the Mustang looks like a Mustang. Like, it looks beautiful.
It has that sloped front end. It looks real aggressive.
Wide too. It looks like it has like a wider body. Like it does look aggressive, Whitey. Like you said, like it looks like
no one's going to be able to pass Ryan Newman now.
Oh no, he's going to be taking.
That guy needed a wider car. Jesus,
he's going to be taking all the air off your bumpers.
I would have loved to see the front view of the Camaro though too, to see like how,
if there's any differences there.
That car looks aggressive too, you know what I mean? But the angle, I think, did Ford justice in that picture that you sent. And you know what? I'm surprised there hasn't been any more that leaked. Like, come on, in today's day and age, you're not going to leak some of those cars or some of the pictures. Like, I think they did a good job on really holding back some of these pictures for the unveil.
That is true.
My only bone to pick, and it's not really like, it's not a serious bone to pick. It's just, we gripe to gripe sometimes, is that I don't know why they're doing it at 3 p.m. in the middle of the day. Like, why not make a show out of it? They make a show out of everything else. Like, why not make it like a primetime show on FS1 or whatever, NBCSN or whatever.
Bring some of the big drivers in, give a couple interviews, their thoughts on it, maybe some of the crew chiefs, what to expect, and give the fans a little bit of insight on what to expect from the next gen car. Yeah. That would have been a really good idea. Have an hour-long segment, break down the old car versus the new car. And I mean, maybe they will, but that would be a great thing to do for the newer fan. They're trying to get fans in. Hey, what better way to explain this new car than to the newest fan?
Yep. And so that happens. So that happens this Wednesday, right? So that's in 2 days.
Yep.
So
Wednesday, 3 p.m. NASCAR.com. I'm surprised.
We'll obviously, go ahead.
Like you said, I'm surprised they didn't do it on like Race Hub or something. I mean, they do Race Hub every single day on FS1. And then what's the NBC show? Motor Mouths? Something like that.
Motor Mouths. Yeah.
So you would think they would do something. I'm sure after it's unveiled at like 3 p.m., maybe they'll have the car in the studio for Race Hub or something. And
we'll break it down next week for our listeners too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That'll probably take up the entire news segment if nothing crazy happens. But that's pretty much all I have for news. You guys want to jump into the racing weekend down at Kansas?
Let's get it started, baby.
Of course, we had trucks on track on Saturday night. Kyle Busch, the big winner there. And you want to know what? I was watching the final stage and something really, I was watching Kyle's pit stops, and I just noticed he stops perfectly in the box every single time. And like, that's how you can really tell a Cup Series driver versus some of these younger guys in the Truck Series. And it's no surprise he finally pulled one off. I feel like his teammate John Hunter Nemechek and his employee has been crushing him in these truck races as of late. But Kyle Busch getting the win on Saturday night. And Matt, you said Sunday morning, hey, Kyle Busch is one to watch on Sunday because when he does a truck race, he usually does pretty well in the Cup race. And you were 100% right because, well, he pulled out his 58th win of his career in the Cup Series on Sunday, the first of the season. And this was a cool stat, the second ever win on his birthday. No one else has won twice on their birthday. He's never lost a race on his birthday.
The Buschy McBusch race too. So it was like the perfect storm. I don't even know. I didn't even connect the two dots with the name of the race with either of the Busch brothers until like halfway through the race. I was like, oh, wait a second.
I honestly, when I hear Busch, I think Kevin Harvick, and he came in second. So
yeah.
Whitey, last night at hockey, you know how Luke always yells at us, why the heck does Kevin Harvick run the Jimmy John's car? Shouldn't Jimmy Johnson be running the Jimmy John's car?
Yeah.
Paul Menard, why isn't he driving the Menard's car?
Yeah.
Well, last night, he loved it. I go, Luke, guess
Paul
what?
Menard used to drive the Menard's car.
Yeah. I go, Kyle Busch won the Buschy McBusch 400 sponsored by Busch on his day. I go, Luke goes, yes, now that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
He was probably losing his mind.
Yeah.
If only Busch was sponsoring him that race instead of Kevin Harvick. We need the M&M's 500 or whatever at Talladega or something. But what'd you guys think of the race?
I'll go. I thought it was excellent. I mean, I guess I'll just go ahead and throw my grade at you too. I gave it an A. And I thought the racing was the best mile-and-a-half product we've seen.
I think so too.
There was multiple grooves for the whole race, the side-by-side battles for the lead on multiple occasions. The only reason it didn't get the A+ for me is because of that whole tire debacle. I thought that kind of put a little damper in the day there. But with that being said, it didn't ruin the race to me. I know we were talking about it before the show that Jeff Gluck does his poll about was this a good race?
Yeah.
And all three of us during the race yesterday were saying like this racing's amazing, and then I was shocked that it was only 57% said yes.
Yeah.
And so I went and I looked at the comments, and a lot of people said that they said no because of that tire debacle.
The tire debacle, yeah.
And I just didn't think that was enough to affect my grade that drastically, you know? So I thought everything else about the race was great. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. I told you guys I was going to unload a little bit.
Yeah.
I have to get it off my chest. I fired off a tweet yesterday. Anyone who follows me on Twitter saw Keselowski. I know he's not going to listen. I know this will never get back to him, but I really wish it did, man. He is one of the smarter guys in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
He really is. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. He's one of the more talented drivers, obviously. He's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But it must be a Penske thing. They don't look into a mirror when they talk. He is the biggest advocate for not blocking.
Like a proponent.
I remember he went on a famous tirade about it. With William Byron, it was
like 2019. William Byron got into him in practice or something. He's like, these guys are throwing bad blocks. I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, right. Well, this is like the 1,000th time that Keselowski threw just an awful block. And I know it sounds biased because obviously I'm a Chase Elliott fan, but if it was anybody else, I'd be saying this too. Like, stop being such a hypocrite.
Oh, yeah.
It was unbelievable. He came up two lanes
right in front of Chase who had the run.
Drove Chase Elliott right into the wall. And Elliott had that run coming. I'm not saying he definitely would have won, but he would have been in better position with the last half lap to try to make a run at Kyle Busch for the lead and for the win. And Keselowski threw an awful block, and it kept me up just thinking about it. It just pisses me off. So, but I didn't let that affect my grade either. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. I said it, it's out of the way, and we can move on. But I just thought that was a Busch League move. No pun intended.
I completely agree. Like, Brad Keselowski is, and that's what makes him more egregious. He's one of those guys that's very vocal about blocking. And then you watch him and Joey Logano throw blocks at every plate track. You know, he threw that was an egregious block against Chase. And I get it's the last lap, but you want to know what? Like, that could have destroyed half the field on the last lap also. You know, you're putting a guy into the wall.
He literally said a couple years ago, look out, I am going to run through the back bumper of everybody that's in front of me. Like he literally sounded like a little crybaby. Oh, you want to do this bad block? Well, guess what I'm going to do? That's Penske. Matt, I did think that, I think in a way, I think it's Roger Penske's fault too. He allows his drivers to be that way.
Yeah.
I know he said it in the past. He lets his drivers be his drivers. He doesn't try to intervene much. But you know what? I think it affects them. I think letting your driver just be rogue, and that's what, not to get sidetracked or anything, but, with the Noah Gragson and the junior thing, I think maybe, letting your driver just be your driver, sometimes you do have to dial it back. But I agree. But I'll go with my race grade too. We'll just keep this flowing through. Matt, you almost nailed it word for word. I don't have to say much more. The multi-groove lanes, the different ways you could go around that racetrack for speed. It just all day it produced great battles, going 5 wide, 4 wide, flaring out, the bumping, it had everything. It was like Talladega, last week with some of the,
it really was.
And, it was just absolutely wild to watch. And, I didn't let the bullshit of the tire drama get to my grade either. And I gave it an A as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't give it the plus factor because of that. But I think if that doesn't happen, I think it might have gotten the plus. Best mile and a half, like you said, by far. So I'm just going to mirror you 100%. It was just a good race all around. I'll give it an A.
Whitey, I guess we should probably stop assuming that the people listening to this, actually saw the race. Do you want to just really quick break down what the tire debacle that we keep referring to?
Yeah, sure. So I feel like this is a little bit of dig at me, but Tyler Reddick's pit crew.
I didn't even mean it that way. That's funny.
During a green flag stop, there was an uncontrolled tire penalty. Tyler Reddick's pit crew was, they rolled the tires from the passenger side of the car back to the wall. It bounced off the wall and then rolled across pit road and landed in the grass. Now, usually when this happens, NASCAR will call a caution either as soon as pit road is clear of all cars, so they could come down and the safety crew can pick up a tire, because a loose tire in pit road is extremely dangerous. Just for the pure fact, if a car loses control and hits it, that tire could go bouncing either into the pit boxes, and it could kill a crew member. It could kill someone on the team, and if not kill them, injure them very badly. I mean, those tires weigh upwards of about 60 pounds, I believe. So normally they'll call the caution. Because it was during green flag stops, though, they let the tire sit until Chris Buescher, who was on the lead lap and he was the last car to pit under green, pitted. Now, his crew chief was keeping him out, expecting that caution, so it would pit, it could come out and he could pit under caution. It would put him back out on front for the lead lap. It would pin a couple guys 2 laps down or a lap down, and
which benefit for some.
Sure.
So and a lot of people were angry about it because NASCAR waited so long to throw the caution. They waited until all the green flag stops were done. Everyone had pitted. That way, no one got pinned down a lap or anything like that. Now, a lot of people are complaining because of the time amount it took for them to respond to that. Because
we'll get into our opinions with that later in the show, but I just wanted you to at least break that down.
That was good. That was good.
when we referenced the tire debacle, it was an uncontrolled tire penalty, and it took way too long for the caution flag to come out. But my race grade, I'm going to give it an A as well. Even though it was my driver, he got put down a lap. He had to serve a penalty and whatnot. He made his way back. I still enjoyed the race as a whole. Even when we were texting after the first stage, I texted you guys, I go, this was the best first stage of racing I've seen all season. Definitely one of the best 1.5 mile tracks we have. That and Homestead.
Wait, you said that on, what was that, either Friday or Saturday? You said like Kansas is a really, really fun 1.5 miles.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, you know what? It kind of is, but it's still 1.5 miles. So let's see what happens here. And you called it, man.
Love it.
Yeah.
Drivers absolutely.
It was so much fun. Any racetrack that gives you multiple grooves, you're going to see great racing like that. And we saw it.
And that's the great thing about Kansas. Homestead, you could ride the fence. You have multiple groups to choose from. That's kind of like what we saw at Homestead too. A lot of guys weren't riding the fence. That Tyler Reddick, he said over the weekend in Homestead, they set up the car just to ride the fence. And then they found like, Kyle Larson was really fast that day. It was taking the inside lines. This week, they wanted to be able to attack all those different lines and stuff. And I think the guys that did that really, really capitalized, because like look at Kyle Larson all day long. He was running up front. It was the Kyle versus Kyle show, and they were picking different lanes, trying to get as close to the fence, maybe dive bombing down into the corners. So I thought it was a great race overall. I was going to give it an A- because of the tire. I'm still going to give it an A. And I think Jeff Gluck, when it comes to those polls, you have to factor in the winner too. There's a lot of Kyle Busch haters out there, and anytime he wins a race, they're going to say it wasn't a good race. I don't like Kyle Busch. I'm going to say it was one of the best races of the season, and I was happy to see it. Before we go too further in, the highlights of the race, 7 cautions for 36 laps. We had 18 lead changes among 6 drivers, so plenty of passing during the race, plenty of different lines. The top 10 was, of course, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Matt DiBenedetto, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., Tyler Reddick, Chris Buescher, William Byron, and Austin Dillon rounding out the top 10. And if that wasn't a good mix of drivers to see at the end.
Yo, shout out to Matty D. I think we've voiced our opinion on Matty D a lot. We're huge supporters of him. We love him. First time in his career, back-to-back top 5 finishes for him. So, man, he's going in the right direction.
Yeah, he had a solid day.
Buescher, again, solid days from those boys. We talked about them last week a little bit, just still solid. Some of these people, middle of the pack, just putting together runs week after week.
William Byron, another top 10 now. That's what is that? White is just 8 or 9 in a row.
I think it's 9 in a row.
9 in a row.
Yeah,
9 in a row. Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
Yeah, William Byron's on fire, and this is the first week he hasn't finished within the top 5 in a while. So that just goes to show you how great of a season he's having. I was a little disappointed in Denny Hamill. He was running great all day. He was in the lead, and then he tapped the wall. I don't know if his tires were getting a little worn and he got a little tight and came up in there. But other than that, that was the only guy I was expecting to see in the top 10 that wasn't. I thought it was a great race all day long, though. I mean, 18 lead changes and 6 different leaders. That's kind of the mile-and-a-half race you ask for. And they were close all day long. 4, 5 wide on restarts. I thought it was a great race. Do you guys want to jump into the checkers and the wreckers?
Let's do it.
All right, Matt, what was your checkers?
All right. So my checkers goes to NASCAR for not calling the caution when Cody Ware spun trying to get on pit road. I think they've had enough of them. This is like the 3rd or 4th week in a row that we're talking about frickin' Cody Ware or Rick Ware Racing. But every week they keep doing something that we have to talk, forces our hand to talk about them. So my checkers goes to NASCAR for not calling the yellow flag on him when he spun there, because was he doing that intentionally to draw the caution for? Well,
don't jump into it yet, because I have a topic during our Pick a Lane segment. I have a conspiracy theory on all the Rick Ware cars and some of those backmarker teams that we'll get into.
We will. But that I just thought, kudos to NASCAR. I think they've had enough of them, just like Mike Joy has had enough of them, and all the fans have had enough of them. I think all the drivers have had enough of him. His own teammate has had enough of them.
Every time something happens with a Rick Ware car, you could hear the disgust in Mike Joy's voice, where he's just like, "Oh, Cody Ware,"
Yep.
Is he a chartered car? Is that a chartered car?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a chartered car.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have charters for all 4 of those cars.
Yep. So
there should be a rule. If you have so many DNFs, you should just not your charter should just be taken away.
Not that we're soccer guys. I mean, I think we're the furthest from soccer fans, but over in Europe, if teams finished, so many years in a row or whatever it might be, at the bottom part of the league, they get relegated, they get booted.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I think, man. So I think that they should do that with NASCAR, boot them down to the Xfinity series. I don't know. I'm sure, logistics behind that wouldn't allow for that, but they kind of do that with the charters.
Make
because
them,
if you have
make them run Xfinity series races instead,
Right. I know with the charters, if you finish in the bottom 3 or 4 of the charters for 2 or 3 years straight, you lose your charter.
Really?
So I guess they do. Yeah. So I guess
they kind of do. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my checkers. My wreckers is going to go to Newman's crew guy, who very obviously modified the side skirt there during the race.
Yeah.
Dude, if you're going to cheat, totally fine by me, but just don't make it so obvious. Like, you got
untie your shoe, act like you tripped and you fell into it or something.
Like
play
trip
it off
over
a little bit better. Yeah.
You know, we rag on Keselowski and Penske enough here, but a few years ago they were doing it right. You know, during their pit stops, they'd lean into the side and they'd put a little dent in there, create a little aero advantage, and they got away with it for a while. As a matter of fact, Eric, we were talking about it yesterday. We caught onto it about a month before NASCAR did a few years ago. So, but they were doing it. They were cheating the right way, and that's what NASCAR is, just figuring out little ways. You can't be as obvious as
that rule book.
Yeah, you can't be as obvious as the Newman
NASCAR.
NASCAR
had to do something because they were cutting the tire. Like they were pulling that skirt out.
And they were cutting other people's tires.
And they were cutting other people's tires down. And I think, once those tires kept getting cut down, NASCAR's like, we got to step in here. Something's up.
So for the listener at home or the viewer at home, if you don't know exactly what we're talking about, Ryan Newman got called with a penalty on pit road for body modification, which, I mean, I haven't heard it in a while, but basically
it's rare.
Basically, because they outruled it a couple years ago. But what crews will do is they'll kind of ram their body into the side panels of the car to create an aero advantage. Either they'll kind of put their body in behind the number to dent it in a little bit, or
while they're changing a tire, or jacking up the car,
or they'll pull the side skirt out just a little bit around the tire to create some downforce on the side there. And they got caught. It must have been real blatant too, because I haven't heard that called in a couple of years. So
yeah, it's been a while. So yeah, that was my record, man. Don't be so obvious. But you know what? A for effort. Got to try every advantage, right?
Yeah.
You got to try every advantage.
If you're not cheating, you're not winning. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
All right, Eric. What was your checkers and wreckers for the weekend?
My checkers just goes to Kansas. Like you said, Whitey, I just think, people were talking shit on mile and a half. Well, come to Kansas Speedway. They put on a show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They did. So, like we saw, like we said, I could agree with all you guys. That's Kansas, by far, best mile and a half we've seen so far. Just the multiple grooves. I mean, there weren't a lot of restarts, but, obviously until the end. But, even when there was, this is what stage racing does. This is why you need stage racing.
Oh, yeah.
It gave us those extra in the beginning when Larson was kind of, out in front, and it kind of, he was in control of the race. Those stage breaks and the restarts, they fan out. They go 4 wide, 5 wide there.
Oh, yeah.
It was just
guys take some chances.
You get a little bit of bumping and run like almost like Talladega, like I said. So, Kansas, that racetrack for a mile and a half, whether that package just worked really well there.
Yeah.
Some of these other mile and a halves, they better, maybe see what they could do. But, I got to give my checkers to Kansas. That Speedway, like that mile and a half, by far the best so far.
Yeah. And like years ago, they created this rules package to run better at mile and a half racetracks because the races were getting too spread out and everything. And I noticed in 2019, that's the first year they had the package. People complained about it so much. And then, like, as I would watch races, I realized cooler races and cool race conditions create some of the best racing with that package. Night races, colder races on mile and a halves. I didn't check the temperature down in Kansas, but I feel like because there was some cloud, but there was some cloud cover. I think because the track was a little bit cooler, maybe it just created some better racing for that. I don't know. Or maybe I'm completely wrong. I just know that if you watched Kansas yesterday and you complained about the racing, like I don't know what would please you.
NASCAR's not your sport.
Yeah.
NASCAR's
what
your
you
sport.
want from that? Yeah, like the package, it came through. It came through for once, and I think they dial it every year, and I just think they're working on it and they're getting better and better. Like we talked about the next gen car a little bit. I think it's going to be even getting better once that comes out because they're going to use the next gen to correct some of the stuff that they can't yet. Sure. So I think we're going to even get better. But my wreckers,
Go ahead. I was just going to say, there's a lot of R&D that I don't think they're really throwing a lot into with this car currently.
Oh, yeah,
what you have is what you have this year with the new car coming up, and
well,
that's all.
There's a parts freeze, so the teams can't do really any R&D.
Right.
I think there was a little bit of
think-
R&D with the manufacturer, but that's about it.
Little tinfoil hat here.
Mhm.
Do you think NASCAR takes a look at this and maybe says, wait a minute, like, look at how good this season has been. They advertise it best season ever. It's been pretty good. I mean, like, do they take anything from this? Like, as far as like holding parts back, or maybe not giving maybe the control that they have a little bit of, maybe they go that route, you know?
Well,
okay. I thought you were going to say push back the next gen car.
I'm talking like maybe not let these teams go all out. Maybe keep a hold on what you can do and can't do to
almost like a salary cap, with parts and stuff.
So
you never know.
So I'm sure we'll find out more about it on Wednesday when they unveil the next gen car.
True.
But from my understanding, a lot of the parts that normally the teams would manufacture are going to be coming from sole manufacturers. So like swing arms, or not swing arms, but like you know like track bars, suspension components, stuff like that is, I believe, supposed to come from a handful of different manufacturers. So it's kind of like you're just buying the parts and putting the car together in your shop. Maybe engineering things here and there, maybe modifying what you can. But
there's going to be modifications,
of course. But as far as I can tell, I mean, that's the whole point, is to save teams money in the R&D phase and kind of get teams more on the level playing field. And from what I understand, a lot of these parts are going to be kind of parts bins parts. You're not going to have so much R&D with the next gen car.
They want to make it more affordable, hoping that new OEMs come into the sport as well down the road.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm sure we'll find out more about it this Wednesday when they unveil the car. I'm sure there's tons more information to come within the next year or two. But that's just what I've gathered so far in the off season and when they first announced it, that it is supposed to be a more economical car. And that's one of the reasons why is they're just going to have kind of grab and go parts. So Eric, was that your records there?
No. My records, I'm wrecking Larson.
Okay.
I've said this before on the show here, how, you know, Larson, he just, everyone talks about him as being this wheelman, this great driver. And, you know, and to repeat myself once again, because I said it, I don't know what episode it was, but, you know, once again, Larson dominates and he can't finish.
Yeah.
How many times this happened to the guy? Like, come on, you know, everyone talks greatness. And I agree, but, you know, there comes a point when you could dominate the race and then you never win. He just struggles to close these races out. And like,
and that was totally on him, in my opinion, too.
Oh yeah, that was on him.
The lane choice at the end, like, why would you? You know, he's going. You know, if you're going outside, why take inside? And like, you know, it was kind of in a way, it was kind of
outside like every time, and then I don't know,
and then like it was kind of a sick burn to, like, I don't know, maybe either make himself feel better or, you know. I'm not going to say an excuse, but it kind of was an excuse. But like, I chuckled a little bit when he said it. He goes, that was my first restart of the day where I was behind somebody. So I really didn't know what to do.
Unreal.
And I'm like, that's kind of like a fucking pretty sick burn. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want me to do? I was out front all day, and here it is. I was trying to push. I never had to push
because I was
all
day.
But I'm like,
the cars do handle differently in traffic as opposed to being out front too.
So
you know, clean air is always going to be king.
He didn't really know how to push Blaney in a sense. You know, he pushed him too hard, and he didn't, you know, he wasn't used to that all day from being in the front. But, you know, Larson, once again, not getting it done at the end of a race after a dominating performance. You're getting wrecked, son.
I mean, that is a good burn, but at the same time, like that kind of arrogance always drives me nuts. You know, it's like, well, you want to win, then you should have been up front for that restart too. You know, like,
right.
I don't know. And to your point about Blaney not being able to finish, like, how many times have we seen Larson not be able to finish. How many times have we seen him whack the wall with 10 or 15 to go? Even Matt, we were at Pocono in 2019 in the spring race. We were sitting next to each other, and Larson was on a big run. I go, don't worry, he's going to crash in turn 1. And sure enough, like 2 laps later, he did. You know, because he overdrives the car.
He pushes the envelope. And he's got to, and geez, though, like we keep saying, like to Eric's point, like we keep saying, like he'll get control of that, and once he does, he's going to dominate. And he has. He's been dominating this whole season. You know, sans 2 or 3 races, but he's got 1 win to show from it, and he probably should have 4 or 5 at this point. The way he's been dominating some of these races, so he's got to pull it all together. He has to. He's definitely talented enough, and like we're all, you know, it doesn't sound, you know, I know it sounds like we're bashing him. We're all Larson supporters, but
I mean, I'm wrecking him too because I picked him this week, so he fucked me. He had the race locked out. I'm watching that race, and I'm like, haha, I'm gonna be fucking busting the guys during the fucking podcast. Who's the winner this week, bitches? And I'm all excited, and then it's like, here we go. You know,
well, you can't
close it. So he pissed me off there.
You still beat me by 2 points this week, so I'm going last in the picks, and Matt won with Chase. We'll get into picks later on in the preview section, but I'm going to jump into my checkers and wreckers. My checkers happened off the track. It actually happened at the airport because it was Kyle Busch's birthday and he won. His big brother Kurt hired a mariachi band to show up at the airport and play happy birthday for him as he landed.
They were both drunk in that video.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I didn't see the video.
Oh, it's funny. It's like a 40-second video, but it's hilarious.
But there's no one that can bust your balls better than your older brother, and Kurt Busch, definitely one of the best out there when it comes to ball busting. My wreckers also involves Kyle Busch. Like I said earlier in the show, I'm not a Kyle Busch fan by any means. In fact, I probably dislike him more than most drivers. But that single fan booing during his post-race interview with Jamie Little, just inappropriate, kind of disgusting. The guy's talking about his family's problems with fertility, and his wife just had a miscarriage, and he's opening up about it on national TV, kind of talking about how, you know, he's had doubts in his racing career as of late because he hasn't been able to get it done. And there's just one guy next to the mic going, boo, boo, boo. And that's no exaggeration. That is exactly how he sounded.
I felt
for 40 seconds, and I'm just like, shut the hell up. Like,
I felt the same thing. Like it was like you can feel it because you knew Kyle Busch could hear him.
Oh yeah.
And like Kyle Busch was like, in his defense, like he was having a moment of like honesty with us, and like it was like a different side of Kyle Busch that we saw in that post-race interview.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like interested in what he had to say because, you know, I can't pretend to know what he's going through with his wife Samantha, but it's obviously had an effect on him, and he's willing to kind of share that with the whole world. And there's this jackass, just a jackass, just like you said, Whitey, boo, boo, you suck. You suck. And it's just like, dude, shut up, man. Shut up.
Like there's a time and a place, you know?
Good for that fucking guy. Good for that guy. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I'm going to give him props here because just like you guys said, he's sticking to his hatred for Kyle Busch. You know what I mean? He's saying boo. But you know what? Because I probably would have been that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I was at that race and I'm there, I'll tell you the difference between me and that guy, though. I'm giving 2 boos and I'm out of there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Boo Kyle Busch. Boo him. Because he's just, you know, boo, boo, give 2 boos, you suck, and then out of there.
Then you're out.
So
as soon as he mentions like personal issues, then you're like, all right, I got mine.
Real quick, in a moment of complete honesty. 2 years ago, when Kyle won at Pocono.
Yeah.
I had a few in this. Now I'll preface with what I'm about to say by saying I'm not proud of this. Okay. I'm really not proud. But I had a few in me. We were drinking, you know, it's NASCAR. Kyle won. I wasn't happy about it.
Yeah.
So I threw my bird at him he would see, as if he would see it, me up in the crowd.
We're in the second level too. We were pretty high up. There was no way he was seeing that.
Well, Steph goes, look, would you look at what you did? I look down. There's this little kid looking up at me. He looks back at the track and he throws the bird. And it hit me like it washed over me like, oh my God, like I did not want that. Like,
some role model.
Yeah, some role model I am. So like I've had to live with that for 2 years. So I just thought that was a funny little story to tell you guys.
That's pretty good. And you want to know what? Maybe that guy should get a pass because I guarantee he sounded like he was drunk as all hell.
Right.
And if that happened at Pocono and we were all drinking like we drink, yeah, I'd probably do the same.
Now that I think about it, it's the popcorn.
I'm being real here.
That's true.
Blue Kyle Busch, yeah.
Right.
Oh man.
Fair enough.
Let's see. I think we touched on a lot of the race. Was there anything during the race that jumped out to you guys that you think we forgot about?
No, it's just a good overall race. I think, we talked about the battles, Keselowski's bad fucking block on Chase.
Yeah. I think it was just a solid race altogether. There was a lot of great stuff that I forgot about. I watched the highlights a couple times today just to see, how about, and I can't find this highlight anywhere, but the Tyler Reddick save. I think Austin Dillon hit the wall right in front of him, and he cut right through three guys. Like he went 3 wide on the inside there. Yeah. Great save. And that was after the whole pit road debacle. I was fuming about that pit road stuff, man, because like Tyler Reddick's been running. I mean, he's been running better the last couple of weeks. He's finished within the top 10
the first
in the
pit
last
stop
couple
he had,
races.
Whitey, I even texted you. I
Perfect.
said,
It was a
that
perfect pit stop.
What is it? 2 or 3 spots.
He gained 2 spots. I mean, at one point he was like running third, and then just that's what it is, though. It's a killer. Pit road's a killer. And you want to know what? It wasn't just Tyler Reddick that had an uncontrolled tire. I mean, Eric Almirola had an uncontrolled tire. That shit happens, but like that's his second one of the season. I was tweeting at the team. I'm sure they didn't see it or they didn't care at all, but I was voicing my frustrations on that. I know, Matt, you were frustrated with Brad blocking Chase. That was just egregious. Eric, I know not a great day for Eric Jones either. He was running pretty well for most of the race, and then he got put a lap down during that whole.
I mean,
yeah.
It's funny, like at the point of a race that you could be in where I was screaming at my TV for him to stay on the lead lap.
Yeah.
He like literally bumper to bumper at that first. I'm like, please stay on the lead lap. Please stay on the lead. Like I'm cheering for him to stay on the lead lap. And he did for the first stage. And then it kind of went downhill from there. And, I thought, like we alluded to earlier, that strategy where he was one of those maybe 10, 12 cars
who are
that
trying
kind
to
of
stay out
a little bit there, trying to stay out for that perfect reason of, hey, maybe someone screws up during this green flag stop. We get a caution. Now Eric Jones fits from the top 10, top 12, and now you aren't in 24th, 25th, battling through air and handling, like Logano said, hey, let me get in front. Let me get in fresh air. Let's see what this car has compared to the guys that have been running in fresh air. So, I was one of them that was hoping that caution would come out and, that strategy would work out. But, Matt was texting me earlier too. And, during the race saying, like, I did agree, like, that's what I want to see him doing, something different. Stay out. Try to make it win. Try to make it, do something, get stage points, get something. Because, like, you look at Bubba Wallace, he's 20th in points, which is decent for that team, but he hasn't finished in the top 15.
Yeah.
When Eric Jones, he has a couple top 10s. I'm pretty sure he might have a top 5 in there, one of those races, or close to it. But
he would have had a top 5 last week if he didn't get right out.
And it's just like, how are you sitting 20th and you don't have a top 15?
He's not getting any stage points.
Right. So like Bubba, he's stage points 1 and 2. He knows he's not going to win the race. So fuck it. If I go out on old tires and I get some stage points and then I go back to 25th for the end of the race, he doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean?
I mean, look at
Trackhouse team. They're always staying out. They're always long pitting.
That Trackhouse team, like that Trackhouse team though, is doing everything right that a new team has to do. Like I had low expectations and they have far exceeded it. I think that's the problem. Everyone had real high expectations on 2311 because it's a Toyota team and it has Joe Gibbs equipment, or so it says. I personally think they might still have the Levine family racing equipment. And honestly, I don't think Mike Wheeler's that great of a crew chief anymore. I think he's past his prime. But like you look at Trackhouse, and they're doing everything.
Handle pressure.
No, I don't.
There, I said it. And I like Bubba. I'm a Bubba fan. I support Bubba. I root for Bubba, and we've acknowledged in past episodes, and
we want him to do great. We
want him to do great because that's good for the sport. But with that being said, I'm starting to believe Bubba might have a hard time dealing with pressure.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't know how I would do with it in his situation either. I'm just saying it might be something we need to acknowledge.
Plus, now he has the weight of Michael Jordan on his. At least with RPM. At least with RPM, it was like, oh well, the equipment's bad. You can't really expect too much out of him or whatever. But Eric Jones is running that same equipment, and he's running pretty well. Trackhouse Racing is running that same equipment, and they're running really well because they're all on the RCR campus. They're getting RCR chassis and RCR and ECR engines and stuff like that. But Eric, to your point, when it comes to stage points, look at Denny Hamlin. Right now, Denny Hamlin is leading the points in first by 87 points, and he hasn't won a race. Martin Truex Jr. is in second. He has 2 wins on the season, and he's 87 points behind Denny Hamlin. That just goes to show you how important stage points are and stage wins. Those stage wins are key, and Denny's killing it. I'm waiting for Denny to win.
Week out, Eric Jones never gets stage points. No. I don't think he's ever gotten a stage win in his career. And how many years have we been in the chase so far?
Yeah.
It's like, come on. Like, that's what frustrates me. It's his crew chief, not Eric. I think Eric does well behind the wheel of his race car.
It's just who's making those calls.
Strategy and who's making those calls? Like, put Eric in a better chance to get points or to win a race or vice versa. Like, look at the season as a whole or look at it as a race. If you're not going to win that race, then you go to the season picture. Try to get points. Try to stay to that top 20. And they just don't do that.
I mean, look at the jump that Matt DiBenedetto has had in points. He started his season off so bad, and he's gaining points every week because he's kind of getting stage points. He's getting 2-3 stage points here and there, just chipping away at the block. Yep. And Eric, like to your point, like Eric Jones started behind the 8-ball this week, failed pre-race inspection twice, sends him to the back of the line. I put him on my DraftKings lineup before that happened. I was devastated. I'm like, well, there goes my lineup for the day because that equipment's not going to cut through the field like Kyle Larson's equipment, who was also starting in the back, and he was able to make his way to first in the first stage. So yeah, it's just those little things. I think all 3 of our drivers are kind of struggling with that. I mean, Chase obviously is leading the points out of all 3 of our drivers. But even him, like, I don't see him really winning stages like he did last year. And well, he's got to get a win soon, I think. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in the playoff talk. Do you guys? One thing I want to bring up: Kurt Busch. Where's Kurt Busch been? He started so promising at the beginning of the season, and I
had high hope for Kurt.
He has fallen into a slump. He hasn't finished inside the top 10 since Homestead. And his best finish since Homestead is 13th.
He released that video in the beginning of the year. Do you guys remember that? Like that,
where he's teasing retiring.
Yeah, but he never came out and said it. He still hasn't announced that he's retiring, but like he had that teaser video that kind of leaned towards like him retiring. So I don't know if he's just thinking that he's done after this and he's just kind of enjoying himself. I don't know what it is, but he's been non-existent.
That'll bring us to a Pickle Lane segment that I have lined up. We'll talk about that in a couple of few. But like you said, I'm not sure if he's retiring or not. He kind of alluded to it, but then at the same time, he's kind of teased how he wants to drive the next gen car because he did some testing and he really enjoyed it. He said he can't wait to be in a pack and see how it performs in pack. So we'll see what happens there. I think that's pretty much a wrap for the Kansas weekend, except for, of course, who came in last place. Every podcast out there talks about the winner, but here on the Bump and Run podcast, we like to talk about the guy who came in last because, well, no one ever really talks about him. This week, it was one Josh Bilicki. He finished 17 laps down, but he was running. He did finish the race, so I will give him that. He's currently running in his first full-time season in Cup for Rick Ware Racing. Very familiar when it comes to the last place finishing guys. His career best finish came in Cup this year at Daytona. He finished in 24th. His best finish ever was in the Xfinity Series last year at Daytona Road Course. He came in 12th. This is another one of those guys. He came from the sports car world, did some IMSA racing. I feel like that's where a lot of Rick Ware Racing guys come from. They come from the IMSA world. Maybe they want to break in.
The bar? Oh.
What's that? Oh. I think
where do they come from? The bar? Is that where he
I think they come with funding to run for the weekend.
Yeah.
But Josh Bilicki, I believe, is the only, besides Cody Ware, is the only full-time driver for Rick Ware Racing. Well, yeah, I don't have much to say besides he did finish. He was just 17 laps down. And that just goes to show.
I don't think he's as bad as some of the other people we normally talk about coming in last. I don't think he causes a lot of issues on the racetrack week to week. I think he knows his place when he's out there. He knows how to even get out of the way, and he knows what equipment he's in.
Yep.
Because we would be talking about him more, and he doesn't. For being in Rick Ware equipment, I think he does a little bit better than his son.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'll agree.
That's fair. He doesn't make the boneheaded mistakes that Quinn Houff makes. He doesn't make the
well,
mistakes
Quinn Houff runs for Starcom Racing.
Yeah.
Quinn Houff's on a different team. Did we see anything from Quinn Houff this week? I don't think so. I think he was a couple laps down, but I don't think he got in the way this week.
Bring back Matt Castle, or not Matt Castle, Landon Castle.
Well, Landon Castle's on Twitter right now. You could tweet at him and tell him. Let's start a
much better driver than Quinn Houff was in that 00.
Let's get a change. Let's get a change.org petition going, and we'll get a GoFundMe to fund Landon Castle for a Starcom Racing sponsorship. Maybe the Bumper Run podcast could sponsor him.
Oh.
I wonder how much those backmarker teams charge for sponsorship.
Trust me, Whitey, way too much that we can't afford that.
I don't
we
know.
couldn't even afford to put a little 5x5 inch decal on the back bumper.
Okay. I'm just saying Wise Grocery Stores usually sponsors them for the Pocono race. I noticed that last year. And Wise it's a chain, but it's a small regional chain. I'm sure they're not spending a whole ton of money to advertise at Pocono. Although maybe they are. I don't know. I know Winn-Dixie runs paint schemes for them too. So if grocery stores could afford it, let's get a GoFundMe going and let's raise some capital and get our name on a car. And
I'm in.
And
I'm in too.
Maybe we'll get some TV time. Let's jump into the pick of lanes. Gentlemen, I got my tinfoil hat on for this week. And the choose cone is out. Let's pick a lane. I'm just going to jump right into it. My tinfoil hat theory, and I want to know if you agree. Do you think backmarker teams intentionally spin to get TV time for their sponsors? Now, I was thinking about it on Saturday night during the truck race because Jennifer Jo Cobb, who we talked about, doesn't have the greatest equipment. She's self-funded. She drives for her own team. And she doesn't have very great finishes, usually finishes in the upper 20s. And this week she stopped at the end of pit road and had to get towed into the garage. And that created a yellow flag during green flag pit stop. And it got me wondering because as I was watching it, I got a nice view of all of her sponsors. I go, oh, that's a pretty cool paint scheme. And I was reading her sponsors and stuff. And I actually texted you guys. I go, do you think Jennifer Jo Cobb just gave up? So she got some TV time for her sponsors. There were some local Kansas sponsors there. And I'm sure it was great exposure for them. Are you guys putting on the tinfoil hat with me? Because we saw Cody Ware spin out on pit road too. And I got a nice view of his big purple car. I don't remember the sponsor. I think it was Symbicort or something like that. Some
Cody
drug
Ware
company.
Was like, he couldn't get onto pit road. That's when he crashed.
yeah. I don't think that was intentional.
Pit road and you crash?
Yeah.
Get out of that race car, dude. Come on.
So to answer your question,
I'm just saying.
To answer your question, I don't think it is because at the end of the day, every race is an audition for these guys that are in backmarker equipment.
Yeah.
You got to build your own brand somehow. And the best, most important way to do that is by out driving your equipment. And I think they benefit 0% by spinning your equipment. And honestly, if I was a driver and a sponsor approached me and said, listen, if you're X amount of laps down, how about you throw a spin out there so we can get some TV time?
Yeah.
I'd question if I wanted that sponsor giving me money, because that's not all these guys are competitive guys and women are competitive. And at the end of the day, I don't see that happening. I mean,
all right.
I mean, maybe has that ever happened in the past? I'm sure once or twice somebody has done it intentionally.
Not often.
Like
not
that,
often.
I don't think that's a reoccurring problem that we see in our sport.
I did notice Cobb was very upset in her vehicle when they showed that, though, Whitey. Like she smashed her steering wheel and was saying, I need a push. Like, I need a push. So she was frustrated in the truck. So, like, I don't think it was intentional.
She's had a long couple of weeks, too. She's had a rough go with things lately.
All right. Okay. I could buy it. I agree
with you that it has happened.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happened in the past for sure.
Yeah, they're running a little low on funds. And not having a good race. Let's throw this baby around here.
I'm just saying, Matt, you're a man of integrity. Eric, you seem to be thinking logically in a competitive spirit. If I'm 7 laps down, I'd take a spin to get some. I'd take a spin to get some view on my sponsorship. Hey, they're giving me money to run their name on a truck. I want to do the most I can for my sponsors. You want to know what? Maybe they'll give me some more money for the future, and maybe I could run better, and I won't be 7 laps down. Look at Michael McDowell. He's been running in the back for years with Loves on his car. He finally wins the Daytona 500, and now he's in the top 15 every single week. That money buys speed, and if I don't have the speed, I might as well spin to get some money. That's all I'm saying. But
Whitey, you're gonna put a little clip to attach that iRacing accident you missed? Or a little
yeah. Oh, guys, I sent them some clips. I've been missing Rex left and right in iRacing, although today, on Monday, as we're recording it, I raced 2 races before the podcast, and I wasn't going to race today because I was on such a hot streak. I haven't finished outside the top 5 all week. I got like a 15th and a 20th. I got wrecked out at 2 races, intentionally wrecked too. I was running great. But, it is what it is. One of those racing deals. At least the sponsors got some TV time as I was getting put into the wall. Hopefully someone's checking out the Bump and Run podcast after they saw my logo on the truck down in Kansas. All right, the choose cone is back out. We talked about it earlier, the caution flag for the uncontrolled tire. I'm putting the choose cone out. Do you think NASCAR made the call waiting for all the green flag stops, or do you think they should have called it after everyone had vacated pit road and should have thrown the caution, putting some competitors a lap or 2 down? What do you think impacted the race more?
I think that they should have thrown the caution immediately. And just like when there's debris on the track, I know at Kansas, the grassy area between the actual track surface itself and pit road is the biggest grass area on the circuit. I believe they said that yesterday during the race. So where the tire was compared to where the action was happening on the track, there was, I don't know, 200 or 300 yards. Yeah. So it wasn't really. It
was sunken in the grass too. It was pretty deep in the grass.
It wasn't really in danger. But what my larger point is they should have thrown it immediately, because Chris Buescher stayed out there. That 17 team stayed out there gambling, hoping that something would happen.
They were looking for that caution.
Especially when that tire came out, I'm sure Chris Buescher's crew chief said, stay out, man. They're going to throw this caution. We're going to get caught in the right, like, we're going to gamble and it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
And it never did. NASCAR waited for them to cycle through until they threw the caution. And then even then
after he hit it, it took like what, 6 laps or something?
Like, it was a while. And then they threw the caution. It was so far after Buescher had cycled through that I had thought, like, there's no way that's for the tire.
Honestly, I think they called the caution for debris on the track too. I don't know if that was the same debris as the tire or if there was something else. I don't remember.
I just thought it was kind of, and I know Buescher still ended up finishing 8th, but you never know what could have happened if it didn't shake out the way it did. So I'm definitely not cool with the way that NASCAR handled things. But like I said, was it bullshit? Yeah, it was bullshit, but it wasn't enough for me to be blowing steam out of my ears today. Yeah.
Whitey, so if that was Reddick's tire, what lap did he have to come down and make up that penalty? If he got penalized and there's no caution, how does that work out?
So he was on Sirius XM's On Track with Larry Mack and Danielle Trotta today explaining, and if the caution came out, he would have been the lucky dog, and he would have just had to serve like he would have just had to go to the tail end of the longest line. Because it was still green, he did come in for a stop and go penalty. So that put him down.
So he got penalized, had to go through for his penalty. Meanwhile, there's really no caution.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So why did he have to come down? If there's no caution, technically he's not penalized. Like, what are you penalizing him for if you're going to throw it that late? And guess what? Let him run out there. Let him get a few positions back or something before he has to come down. Like,
honestly,
let him benefit from the caution if you're not going to call it.
Honestly, I said it to you guys in our text message thread. I'm like, well, if you're not going to call the caution right away, why is it a penalty for an uncontrolled tire? Exactly. Because this season they are giving a little bit of leeway when it comes to like tires leaving your box and stuff, as long as it doesn't pose an immediate threat. And I mean, it did as it was rolling, but that's when you call the caution as it's rolling across pit road and you stop everyone in their boxes.
And that's it. You don't have this debate at all if you throw the caution.
I know.
Now, if you don't, then you don't penalize them. That's my thing. I think if they didn't throw the caution, they waited late to call that caution, then he shouldn't get penalized for it.
And that's true.
The whole thing too is like they're always saying like they don't throw those phantom cautions for debris that's not there because they want
to keep the integrity of the race.
They don't want to ruin the integrity of the race. They want to let it play out how it naturally plays out. Well, it played out naturally where a tire
where you should have called the caution.
Right. So I don't know. They're inconsistent.
NASCAR basically said they actually said like, oh, we wanted to make sure everything was good before we called the caution, that they didn't want anyone trapped a lap down. Well, guess what? From this point forward, if it
happens, then you have to play it the same way.
Then guess what? You have to play it the same way. So that's where I'm leaving my thing here is if they continue to police it the way they policed it after Kansas, I'll let it stand.
Sure.
But if they start flip-flopping, I'm going to have more issues. But up until this point, I'll let them do what they feel comfortable as long as they police it the same.
Yeah, right. I completely agree. And you want to know what it reminds me of? Going back to race number 2 of the season, Daytona Road Course, there was a late race caution for rain in one of the turns. And a lot of fans were complaining because they didn't see it on television. The drivers didn't complain because it was. And we talked about it, calling those late cautions for rain and stuff. And I said it then. I'm okay with it as long as NASCAR is consistent with the call every time. So going forward, if this same situation type of thing happens, you have to call it like you did. So if there's an uncontrolled tire and it's in the middle of green flag stops, I want to see them wait until the entire field pits before they call another caution.
Because somebody's whole day, their strategy is based off of, hey, we're going to hope for if there's green flag run, we're going to stay out on every long green flag run. We're going to stay out in hopes for a caution. And guess what? They got screwed. Those teams with that strategy got fucked.
It naturally happened. It's not like one of those pit road guys putted that tire across out of anger or something. Like it naturally bounced across. So that's a natural caution in my mind.
Right. As soon as that starts rolling, throw it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because so, honestly, when it's rolling, that's the most dangerous time too. You want to stop cars while they're still in their pit boxes before they come out blaring. Like say it was a car 3 spots behind Reddick and he's fucking spinning his tires as he's coming out. He punts that tire and it goes flying into the pit crews, you know? So
basically what NASCAR's saying is, oh, pit road wasn't that busy and hectic, so it wasn't that big of a deal this time. But if that tire rolls out and there's still 22 cars behind him because he's pit stall 3, then guess what? That time is a little more dangerous, so we're going to call it that time. Yeah. It was like a judgment call that should never be a judgment call because you see a tire, leave a pit box, caution.
Yeah.
There is no judgment call. There is none.
Agreed. It's not a gray area. It needs to be black.
There is no gray area. Yeah.
As long as they call it the same way next time it happens, I'm okay with it this time. Right. I wish they called it because Tyler probably could have got a better finish out of it.
Right. And Eric was one of them running there too. it happened after he was like coming down, like as soon as it might have started happening, but he was hoping for a caution too.
Yeah.
So,
Because
that's a strategy that certain teams run on a week-to-week basis, hoping for that type of stuff. And now they might change that up because NASCAR, they might not call it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm just glad we got to see some green flag stops, though. I enjoy long green flag runs like that, especially at 1.5 miles.
When the pick to battle each other, because they show the times, driver what his time is and what the pit crew is, and they showed it a couple times yesterday. Kyle Busch's team actually slipped up a little bit yesterday, and I was shocked about that.
Speaking of Kyle Busch, so in his post-race interview, he talked about he sensed some doubts in his ability as of late. Of course, he's been on a long dry run. He only won one race last year, and it was after he was already cut from the playoffs in Texas last year. And then he had a long dry run the year before too, in between Pocono's spring race and Homestead win, where he won the championship. And it got me wondering, and we were talking about his brother Kurt, whether he might retire at the end of the year or not. You know, you never know when you're going to see a driver's last win. If it was up to you guys, would you want to see your driver kind of stick around and fizzle out, or would you want to see him do what Carl Edwards kind of did, kind of go out while you're still very competitive? Do you think it's better to go out on top, or do you think it's better to stick around a little too long, kind of like Richard Petty did, where you run, maybe 10 years without a win?
I'll take this one here, just because I just went through it a little bit with my driver, Matt Kenseth.
Yeah.
I was upset that he got booted because I felt like he still was running really well in that 20 Gibbs car.
Yeah.
I thought, you look at overall what he was doing, he was still right up there winning races, and then he obviously got booted out of that ride, which, okay, I could see it happens. And, he never really got another fair opportunity for the first year and a half. And then, there was kind of rumors of that he was going to officially retire. And then he came back to the 6 car to help out with that program.
Yeah.
And, he ran there for a little bit.
I thought he ran he ran the 6 car?
He ran the 6 car. He ran the 6 car when Newman was out. So they brought Matt Kenseth in. Last year he ran the 42.
Okay. All right. Well,
he
that's
ran
why
the 6 car first.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I thought Ross Chastain ran the 6 car last year. So
Trevor Bayne was in the 6 car. So when Matt was there, it was Trevor Bayne was in the 6 car, and then Kenseth, and they were like each were going on and off. Trevor
Newman was still in the 31. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So then Matt ended up going 6 for one full-time season in that 6 car.
Okay.
And then that's when Newman ended up jumping in that car, in the 6 car. And then that's when Matt went over to the 42 car and took over when his whole debacle happened.
Yeah.
They signed for that year. And you know what? I'll tell you this. It's good to see him out there. It was fun to watch him run well. A few of those races in the beginning at Darlington and a few of these other ones. But it was sad at the same time because, he's not in a Gibbs car. He's not in a Hendrick car. So he's not going to be the same driver that you used to love watching on Sundays every week. But I still cheered for him. It gave me someone else to root for. But I'm glad he was doing that, not to try to be competitive. I think he was doing that more to help the teams out as a veteran presence, see what these teams need to work on in their programs, because he was at a high level and he did elevate those teams, I feel like. So, I would rather my driver go out, when they're done. Don't try to get in another, just let it be.
So I kind of went through, me being a junior fan my whole life, I went through like a kind of similar thing.
Yeah.
And I would rather,
even Dale Sr. had a couple of years where he didn't win.
Oh God.
Like that 97 season.
To answer the question directly, I definitely wouldn't want my driver to quit while he's on top, because like Carl Edwards did, just because I would always wonder, well, what
else could have happened?
That instance,
and then Junior had a long span there in his career where he didn't win, and everyone thought like he was like being ridiculed. Like, is he sticking around way too long?
Yeah.
He finally won at Michigan, and then he got paired up with Steve Letarte. And I'll tell you what, those boys went and had some fun, especially like 2014. He had a completely revitalized career. It was Steve Letarte's last year on top of the pit box before he went over to NBC. They won the 500. They swept Pocono. And then I know Junior had a couple more wins right after that. I know he won with Greg Ives. So he had a little bit of a revitalization after everyone, had him dead and buried as far as his career goes. So it all depends. I definitely don't want to see my guy go out on top though, like while he's still like, one of the best in the business. I would like to see him kind of trickle out gracefully, which is, I guess, besides the whole concussion thing, Junior kind of got to do that at the end, say this is my last year, and he went out and kind of did it on his own terms.
All right. I kind of agree, especially with the, you never want to wonder what could have happened, I think Jimmy Johnson went out the right way last year. I wish COVID didn't hit, because then he would have got the whole Jimmy Johnson's final tour and the fans would have got to see him and stuff. But Jimmy, while his best years were definitely behind him, he was still competitive where you're like, oh, well, he could still win a race. So yeah, I think I would like to see my guy go out with the ability to win a race, but maybe, he's like, I think it's time to hang it up. I think they know when they know. I just know some guys stick around too long,
Well, I think Kurt Busch is the perfect example right now. Like, he's not running well, but like none of us are allowed to be surprised if he rips off.
If he wins. Oh yeah, right? Absolutely not. Especially, and you want to what, Eric, to your point before, when he was running, when Kenseth was running that 42, I think he kind of exposed how bad Chip Ganassi's equipment is right now, and I think Kurt Busch is one of those guys that could sneak out a win with that equipment. But I don't think many other people would, if that makes sense. I mean, like, to me right now, Ross Chastain's kind of an afterthought. Even when he was up front yesterday, I was like, oh, I forgot Ross Chastain was in Cup right now. He's running for Chip Ganassi, So I feel like that too, like sometimes those like veterans near the end of their twilight career, they kind of get bounced to some lesser equipment, and that kind of seals their fate too.
I was looking into some stats the other day just about like who has wins and their careers. And like, it seemed to me, multiple drivers, when you get to age 34, 35 and forward, your production drops off tremendously.
And how old is Kyle Busch right now? He just turned 36.
He just turned 36.
Yeah.
So I was looking at all like Jimmy Johnson, all of these guys that are winning in the sport, dominating multiple wins a year. Around that age, it all starts to fall off. Yeah. And especially nowadays, like with this younger crew coming in, pressuring
they're running
these
simulators
guys,
and stuff. The older guys aren't used to sim racing.
So like at that age group, it's I think from age 30 to 35 is when you're going to have your best performance.
Yeah.
And it just seems like, and in that time span, if you do switch, like Matt said, when he went with Steve Letarte, how that changes you, because guess what? You're in the peak of your career. Your knowledge, everything, the feel for the sport is there.
Yeah.
So you get paired up with the guy that knows what you want to do. Mm-hmm. That is a huge, huge thing. I think you're seeing Denny Hamill do that right now, having the best. Look at Harvick when he got paired with Roddy Childers, dominating those first couple seasons together. Yeah. And then something just happens after, those first few seasons, that magic, kind of like in a relationship. How you could kind of, everything is all giggles and fun in the beginning, but guess what? It gets harder to work through year 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in NASCAR, the same thing could happen.
Yeah. I don't know if it's necessarily an age thing, like you said, Eric, because like, look at Denny. Denny is 40 years old. Kevin Harvick's 45. They both dominated the sport last year, but it could be a pairing of that crew chief thing. It could be, I don't know if it's all age, because different drivers peak at different times. And I think a lot of it has to do with equipment as well. So,
but here's the thing. And I don't want to jump the gun at all because we're only 11 races in, but like, what if we have seen Kevin Harvick's last win and we didn't know it yet? What if we have,
to that. Like he said,
You know?
hey, you don't know when that last one is.
Exactly,
So
and that's what
you appreciate every win.
That's what got me thinking about it. You know, in my mind, I don't think Kevin Harvick's done. I think he's got a lot more wins left.
Year.
You know, I don't think Denny Hamlin's done, but at the same time, you really never know. You know, especially with a new car coming out, some guys might not adjust too easily to a newer car.
When Jimmy won his last race, nobody would have guessed at that point that's going to be his last win. And
right.
Here we are. So you never know.
He was coming off winning a championship the year before, wasn't he? Yeah. So
yeah.
like, and you want to know what? Sometimes I wonder. There was a pretty infamous crash at Pocono where Jimmy Johnson hit turn one going. I think it was like 180.
Yeah.
And
bad.
Yeah.
We were all there, or I know at least Eric and I was.
The whole infield just went silent. It was like everybody was legit nervous.
That was terrifying.
Even thinking about it's giving me chills right now. But like sometimes I wonder if that kind of got into Jimmy's head. And I'm not saying like, you know, I'm not saying he lost his will or anything or his edge, but you know, something like that, surviving something like that, maybe drive a little bit more cautious. You're less willing to take some risks.
100%.
You know,
because if look at Newman. Newman's definitely second guessing, doing something. Blocking this person or that person or being in the front.
Junior talks about it all the time, how the concussions affected him, how it literally affected the way he approaches races, how he affected driving near the wall and things like that. He's very candid, he's very open about it.
I attribute it to like when I'm younger, I was crazy on my BMX bike or on my skateboarder. You didn't care as a kid. You had the responsibility isn't there. You know, you don't have all these things to worry about like you do when you're an adult. So like
you're willing to hang it all out.
In an adult, you have a family. You know, before you have all of that, you know, you're just willing to go out there and win a NASCAR race.
Oh yeah.
But now, once you have a kid and all that kind of stuff, concussions, couple bad wrecks, your driving mentality definitely changes. And you know what? I think it might hurt it too, not being as aggressive and that mentality.
And that's just natural too. That's not blaming anyone or saying anything. It's natural. It's a natural human instinct, you know? I
always think about that wreck at Pocono and wonder if that was the beginning of the end of Jimmy Johnson's NASCAR career.
That was terrifying. That was terrifying. Being there in person.
What's that?
Bubba did the same thing.
Bubba Wallace did the same thing 2 years ago.
Same exact crash.
Really?
Same exact crash as Jimmy.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe
that was scary. Do you remember like the entire place, 100,000 people, there wasn't one person talking.
No,
when Bubba hit that wall, and then when he finally got out, it erupted. Yeah, it was bad. Like that's the sound of that car wreck. Like I can hear it right now in my head. It was awful.
And you want to know what? Just like comparing it again to Kyle Busch, you know, last year we knew his wife was having fertility issues, and he said flat out, he goes, "That hasn't affected my racing. Hasn't affected me at all." But maybe he's telling himself that, but in the back of his head, it really is taking a toll. Maybe a wreck like that. Maybe Bubba isn't over it. He thinks he is. He might not think about it, but maybe that's why he gets a little scared and he can't put together a race near the end. Maybe there's a lot of factors. I mean, you could psychoanalyze these guys all day long with what they do. So I don't know. It's something to ponder and think about.
It's super interesting. There's a lot that goes into it that we don't talk about enough.
Yeah.
That goes into performance wise. And, people don't think about the human element of it too, the emotional element that goes into it too, that would affect anyone. So,
you know,
it's interesting stuff.
You lose that razor's edge, man. It's like, it's like a Tom Cruise movie, Top Gun, but you know, he got close to being blown up. And then he couldn't fly for a while after that. Goose died and it fucked them all up. You know, who knows? But it's starting to get late early. Let's jump into next week's preview. We got a triple header. We got Trucks, Xfinity Series, and Cup all out at Darlington Raceway. Friday night, 7:30. Trucks are under the lights for the Lift Kits for Less.com 200 on FS1. Saturday, we have the Xfinity Series on track 1 p.m. for the Steakhouse Elite 200 on FS1. And of course, Sunday, Mother's Day, we have the Goodyear 400 at Darlington Raceway, 293 laps for 400 miles, 330 on FS1. And of course, it is a throwback weekend. How are you guys feeling about the throwback weekend being the spring date?
Oh no, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it because I absolutely love throwback weekend, but it gave me it made Labor Day feel like just the whole feel of Labor Day.
Oh, it was something special.
It was special. Like it was, I don't even know how to explain it. It just gave it that, the whole weekend, it just gave it that aura
a good
of
feel.
this is a throwback, the end of summer going into
crown
fall.
Jewel.
Yeah, like a true crown jewel race.
Yeah, so I didn't even know they changed the throwback race to the spring Darlington until 3 weeks ago. I was like, what are they doing?
Some drivers are doing their schemes in the
fall too.
Good.
Yeah,
They should. I guess NASCAR said it was too much gimmick. It's already a playoff race at Darlington in the fall, so they don't need the throwback weekend then.
So
I don't buy that.
That was NASCAR's reasoning because, of course, Darlington was just run once on the schedule for the last couple of years. They added the second race after last year when we were forced to go to Darlington multiple times, and people loved it. So for the spring race, they decided to make that the throwback weekend. That way it gave it a bit of some flavor. It's not just a normal race. And then because the fall race is already in the playoffs, it already has that specialness. It's the Southern 500. I would like to see them do throwback paint schemes for both races. I'm actually, honestly, I'm pretty disappointed that they're running a race on Mother's Day. This is the first time they've run a race on Mother's Day that I believe in the history of NASCAR. I think they always had Mother's Day off, and they would run a night race on that Saturday. Fox kind of forcing the hand.
The only reason they ever had a Mother's Day Sunday race is if that
rain
Saturday
delay.
night got rained out. But Fox doesn't like the night races because of ratings. So here we are. It's BS.
And I'm gonna miss some of the race at least because I am taking my mother and my girlfriend and her mother out to dinner at 5:30. So I'll see a little bit at the beginning. I was thinking about.
I told my mom dinner's on Saturday night. Deal with it.
Yes, yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I was hoping the reservations would be made for Saturday night, but it was not my choice. But we gotta celebrate the moms on Sunday.
Sure,
I mean, they gave birth to us and all.
Love you, Mom.
But I kind of have my fingers crossed. I don't want to say it out loud, but I'm going to say it out loud. I hope it rains on Sunday. It gets pushed to Monday, and it's an afternoon race, and I can watch the whole thing. Because
say it out loud, you son of a bitch.
So if I jinx it, it's because I'm selfish and I want to watch the whole race. I thought about watching the race on my phone. I think that would be in poor taste. I think my mother would be very upset, and I think my girlfriend would be even more upset if I did that. But this week, the top 10, according to Bob Pockrass' math, is going to be Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex making up row number 2. Row number 3, William Byron and Chase Elliott. Row number 4, Denny Hamlin and Matt DiBenedetto. And rounding out the top 10, Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick and RCR row number 5. Looking forward to seeing that. Something I was shocked by, though, was no Kyle Larson in the top 10. I guess the math didn't make it up for him. And I was surprised that Kyle Busch wasn't going to be leading the pack. Brad Keselowski got the pole 2 weeks in a row, which I didn't think was possible through the new math elements.
Hate this
but
new pole format, I absolutely hate it. I
miss qualifying so much.
I
Let's
agree.
Get back to it
I
already.
agree.
Not wait to get back to that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping since what did I read? I feel like I read something that qualifying would be coming back in the summertime. I might have made that up. Don't take my word for it. But with Atlanta.
NASCAR already said they don't see practice or qualifying coming back this year except for the races that they already have planned.
I could have swore something for the playoffs, maybe.
Yeah, I can see them especially for the playoffs. They better, man. At
least bring qualifying back.
It's already May and we're almost out of this pandemic. There's no reason not to bring it back.
And recent weeks, more and more of these drivers and these crew chiefs are kind of under the radar complaining about not having practice.
Yeah.
I've heard multiple people saying, listen, without practice, it's hard to dial in.
Yeah.
Oh, without practice, it's hard to know how this is going to be. They're kind of saying it saying, hey, I think practice, we need it, Sundays, I think practice will make Sunday better, but, it might make it worse because now those top teams we might have the 9 wins like we did, from some of these people.
Bring qualifying
it's
back.
But I love it. I like watching it. It's exciting to me.
We didn't have practice in qualifying last year when we had those 9 win teams. So I think it could go either way. I want to see it come back. I love practice. I love qualifying. It's better for gambling. It's better for fantasy. And this past week, they had a lot more people sponsorship wise in the garage. So NASCAR is taking steps forward. I keep hearing, I keep hearing more and more of the teams, the drivers, the pit crews, they're all getting their vaccines and stuff, which is opening the doors for more sponsors to come into the pits and everything, which, once that really starts rolling, then there's no reason not to run practice once we could start getting more people to the track. Of course, NASCAR is still playing it real safe as much as they can. But let's get into our picks. So
Eric knows why I'm laughing.
What's that?
Eric.
Is because he killed his drink right there?
Eric just downed.
That was like a half glass of whiskey.
That was about 3 fingers right there. That was about 3 fingers of Jim Beam that just went down Eric. And he just did it nonchalantly like it was iced tea in that glass.
I mean, we're getting close to the end of the show.
In the show here,
Yeah.
All right, let me give you the stats, and we can get to the end of this thing before that hits Eric. All right, so I'll give you the stats from the last 4 races, like I always do. So we had, like Whitey alluded to, we had 3 races last year at Darlington because of the pandemic and schedule shuffling. And then we had 1 back in 2019. So those winners were Eric Jones in 2019, Harvick at the first Darlington race last year, Hamlin, and then Harvick in the third one. So the average finishes inside the top 10 for those 4 races. Harvick was a 2.3, Jones 4.5. Keselowski / Kurt Busch both had an 8.3, and then Kyle Busch rounded out the top 10 with a 9.5 average finish. Laps led Martin Truex Jr. 212, Harvick 201, and then Chase with 151. And I came in first this week, so I have the pick. I'm going to get straight to it here. We keep rotating Denny picks, it seems like, and eventually one of us has to hit on him. So I'm going to keep the game of Hamlin Russian roulette going, and I'm taking Denny.
Fucker. I was going to go Denny.
That's actually your 3rd Denny pick in the last 4 races. So let's hope
I've got to hit on him.
You got to hit eventually. You got to. All right, Eric, you're up next.
I was thinking Denny this whole time too. If we're going to put the 30-second clock on, we'll put the 30-second clock on.
Before the Jim Beam hits, Eric.
Yeah.
I want to go with my driver here, but those averages
different
and
equipment.
those races. Yeah, that was in the JGR car where I knew he was going to run well there. I would love to go
for Bell.
But I thought about that, but I don't know how he runs here at this racetrack. So I'm going to go one of the top dogs. I think Darlington's a tough racetrack. It's I think if there's a driver that could win here, he's been running well, little bad luck here and there, but gradually getting better and better. I'll do a little shout out to Shredder here, and I'm going to take Kevin Harvick.
I knew it.
I wrote down 2 names. It was Harvick and Hamlin, and you guys picked them.
So here we go. A half hour later.
No, I have a pretty good idea who I'm gonna pick next. But I was gonna say with that Eric Jones pick. I heard an interview with his crew chief before this weekend, and he said that they've been focusing a lot of their work on the Darlington car. So that might.
I know they have. It's his favorite race, one of his favorite racetracks, but equipment, I can't.
And I believe they're running a Michael Andretti throwback to the 90s. It's an STP car, cool. Petty blue and red STP car. I'm just saying it might run up front, but I'm going to go with the guy starting in the 9th position this week. He ran really well at the Southern 500 in the fall. It was one of his breakout races besides Texas. I'm going with one Austin Dillon to win. I don't know if he's really going to win. I wanted to pick Harvick. I had Harvick in mind for this race, even before this week.
He's just getting better and better. Yeah. That's why and Darlington's a racetrack where I think a veteran, experience is going to matter there a little bit. And I'm
But you want to know what, though? I mean, we've had 10 different winners in 11 races. And
this is why I'm hoping for Harvick. If he gets another one, it makes it closer and closer for that final spot at the end of the year.
I'm thinking Austin Dillon might be able to win it, but we have 3 different drivers without wins currently fighting their way into the championship playoffs. Will it be Austin Dillon? Will it be Denny Hamlin? Will it be Kevin Harvick? We will find out this Sunday, Mother's Day, 3:30 on FS1, the Goodyear 400. And let me just give you a quick breakdown on the playoff picture. Right now, we're 11 races in with 10 different winners. Michael McDowell, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr. with 2 wins, Blaney, Logano, Bowman, Keselowski, Kyle Busch, your latest winner. Will it be Denny Hamlin? Will it be Kevin Harvick? Could it be Austin Dillon? We will find out this Sunday, and we'll break it all down next Monday night on the Bump and Run podcast. For Matt, the Statman Reilly, for Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White, and have a good night.